Hello communication enthusiasts and welcome to this video. If you want to find out more about what corporate communication is, we will talk about it in the following minutes, so watch the video and continue learning about corporate communication. All organizations must find successful ways to nurture the relationships with the stakeholders they have and they are economically and socially dependent upon. So, the corporate communication was developed as the management function that takes care of this business. In 2003, Barclays, a UK-based bank, decided to appoint a new advertising agency. So they wanted to have a new communication campaign, we would say today. It was inspired to have a more humane campaign. After the early years, the bank promoted itself as a big world needs a big bank. So they had such an image of a powerful and big corporation that acted as a bank. Unfortunately, the adverts had good publicity, so this was the good side, but the bank decided to close 170 branches within the UK. So their message was promoting the importance of big chasing ideas and ambitions. Meanwhile, they were closing down 117 branches. The image crisis got even worse after the bank disclosed that the CEO was paid £1.3 million for just 3 months of work. You can imagine how that was for their customers. Well, many people were angry with the bank. And the situation was aggravated even more when they came out with a statement. They said that we are an economic enterprise. We have obligations to conduct business in such a way that it provides returns for the owners of the business, and we will continue to take value maximizing decisions without sentimentally excuses. You can imagine how their message was. There is a widespread belief in the management world that the future of any company depends on how it is viewed by stakeholders such as shareholders, investors, customers and consumers, employees, and the members of the community within they operate. Corporate communication is important because the main and the most important objective of a company is to protect its reputation. And the corporate communication practitioners do is to build, to maintain and to protect the company reputation. Let's have a look of how corporate communication developed itself, starting from the early 1900s up until the 1970s. So at the beginning, in 1970, people used to think of the term public relations. It is also known as PR. You probably heard about PR. And they used that to describe the communication with the stakeholders, and back then all the communication of a company was seen as the communication with the press, with the media. So nothing about people, nothing about the stakeholders, just the communication with the press. With the time, stakeholders, internal and external to the company, started to demand more and more information from all companies they were interacted with. So therefore, companies took into account and developed a new function of the corporations with a whole range of specialized disciplines. So they included publicity, promotions, information and dissemination. These were all ranges, all disciplines that were further on involved in corporate communication, as we will see. So we can define that corporate communication as a corporate design, corporate advertising, internal communication to the employees, issues and crisis management, media relations, investor relations, change communication and public affairs. These are all functions that were incorporated under the name of corporate communication. And in the end, it means how an organization presents itself to all its key stakeholders, both internal and external. Let's see actually how the metaphor of corporate communication was formed. So corporate communication started with the Latin words corpus, which means body, and corporate, which means forming into a body, which emphasizes a unified way of looking at internal and external communication disciplines. You can look at corporate communication like the management of media relations, public affairs and internal communications. If we would have to provide a very fancy and clear definition of what corporate communication is, well, this is it. Corporate communication is a management function that offers a framework for the effective coordination of all internal and external communication with the overall purpose of establishing and maintaining favorable reputations with the stakeholder groups upon which the organization is dependent. Every company has to create for itself a direction towards they go to. So, therefore, we have the following key terms: corporate mission, vision, objective, strategies, identity, and many others. If you don't know about them, we will go into each one of them. If you don't like to watch an at-length video, such as this one, in the description below and in the links up here, you will find shorter videos that define all these concepts. You can watch them or you can watch the following video as it goes. So the mission of a company is a general expression of the overriding purpose of the organization, which ideally is in line with its values and with the expectations of major stakeholders and concerned with the scope and boundaries of the organization. It often answers what business are we in. The vision of a company is the desired future state of the organization. It is an aspirational view of the general direction that the organization wants to go in. Objectives are more precise, so we define objectives as short-term statements of direction in line with the formulated vision, which are to be achieved by strategies. So following on, we will define the strategies, which are actions and communications that are linked to objectives and are often specified in terms of specific organizational functions such as finance, human resources, operations, etc. The key to having a corporate communication strategy is to build and the notion of corporate identity. So going on, the corporate identity is the basic profile that an organization wants to project to all its important stakeholder groups and how it aims to be known by these various groups in terms of corporate image and reputation. To achieve all these, companies need to go at broad with their communication. They have to do massive efforts in communication in order to cover brochures for where advertising, logos, tones that they use on their website, colors, logos, so everything they communicate through, including their service, what their staff say, how their staff behaves. These are all messages that the corporate communication uses in order to transmit one main message that they want to build their identity with. So through their identity, they transmit you their values and how they are and how they want to be seen by you, the consumer, and hopefully the customer. Corporate communication is geared towards building and having a favorite relationship and a favorite image in the eyes of the important stakeholders. So they want to have a good image and reputation with all the stakeholders groups that are important to the success of the organization. Basically, what they say is that the stakeholders are everybody who is affected and who affect the company. So they want to have good relationships with these people, with these groups of people, so they can have a successful business, of course. So in other words, companies that have a favorable reputation and image in the eyes of their stakeholders will hopefully lead to its customers to purchase products and services. They know that the members of the community will appreciate the organization and in its environment. And there is one more aspect we need to talk about. There is a big difference between concepts such as corporate communication, business communication, and management communication. The difference between these concepts is that the corporate communication focuses on organization as a whole. So, and the end important tasks and how an organization is represented to its key stakeholders. In the same time, business communication and management communication focus more on practical skills such as writing, such as presenting, and they look towards individual managers and professionals. So going on with our corporate communication and how it was created, let's see the history. At the beginning of 1970, we had these concepts: publicity, promotions, information, and dissemination. And what this means is that in a company, everything was separated. They had individual departments that were taking care of all these aspects. And at that time, specialties such as media relationships, advertising, sales and promotions, and product publicity were separated within the company. In 1980s, they realized that this fragmentation of all these departments were also spreading responsibility, because if something was not working well, you had to ask the responsible of that department, and they were threw the blame on another department. So this was going against them. This was counterproductive, and the companies realized that. This is why, going with the time, in 1980s to 2000 we had positioning. So this means that the companies, some of them, not all of them, back at that time, developed procedures, guidelines, manuals, and some integrated aspects that they integrated all these departments into one, and that department was called corporate communication. In 1990, the companies realized that by communicating with the stakeholders, they can talk about positioning. So positioning right here is about how a company is positioned in the mind of their stakeholders. And remember that all companies want to have a favorable position in the mind of the stakeholders, because if you see the company in a good way, then you will become their customer and continue buying and contribute to the success of the company. So they were talking about positioning in the mind of the stakeholder in 1990. What happened in the recent years is that stakeholders, so you the customer, you the consumer, and everybody around the company, so not just the consumers such as suppliers, investors, shareholders, all of these, they started to interact more with the companies. And this means that they were empowered by the media technologies. So nowadays you can reach a company, you can DM on their social media, you can write on their website, you can call them, you can interact with the company, and you can have a dialogue with them. In this view, the current state of corporate communication is how organizations communicate with their stakeholders. So they realize this fact, and they realize they have a discipline and a responsibility to communicate back with the stakeholders as a response to your first communication, and not only. This is why in 2000 and up till present you have stakeholder engagement. So what companies want you to do nowadays is they want you to engage. They want to engage you with their company, so you become an advocate. So you represent the company, you recommend it to your friends, you continue buying from them, and you also have integrativity. So you integrate them in your life, because companies want to become part of your life, and they want you to think about them, if it's possible, every second, so you remain their customer. And then they came up with the idea of transparency and authenticity. They realized that nowadays corporate communications, it's not only about promoting their services as it was in 1970. They realized that corporate communication, it's not only about positioning themselves favorably in your mind, and now they realize that they have to corporate communicate, so they have to communicate with you transparent in an authentic manner about what it is that they do, so about their actions and about their direction and about their vision as a company, which were previously only for themselves, so they were not disclosing this kind of information. The focus of the engagement is not only shaping opinions and perceptions, but an organizational being transparent and acting in their character to bring its distinctive identity. So they want to foster individuals to become genuine advocates and act in their favor. This is how corporate communication was developed starting from 1900s as separate disciplines within a company. They became integrated under the mission of positioning themselves favorably in the mind of the stakeholders. And nowadays, starting from 2000s to present, now they want to do engagement with the stakeholders. So this is basically corporate communication in a nutshell. Going on, after all the disastrous announcements made by Barclays Bank, the Barclays Bank in UK, in order to manage the crisis that they had, they extended the opening hours at 80% of their branches. So they recruited 2,000 extra staff and actually ended to cost them more than they reduced in order to have a favorable image in your mind. However, once damaged, the company reputation is very hardly to be healed and repaired in the mind of the customers. This is why you should learn about corporate communication, because once damaged, the corporate reputation is very hard to repair. Once damaged, you will have to do a lot of communication, a lot of advertising, a lot of branding, so you can get in the mind of the customers and change the positioning of your company there. So you have to learn about corporate communication. Thank you for watching the video. If you want to learn more about corporate communication, watch the videos down in the description. Check out my channel. You will find there videos about marketing and corporate communications with definitions, with everything that you need to understand better the business world. If you want to support me and thank me for making these videos, you can buy me a coffee. There is a link down in the description, and you can also like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please also leave a comment, whatever you want to comment, in the comment description, because it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. You know how YouTube is nowadays. So please do that, and I will see you at the next videos. Bye.